All right, well, clouds have rolled in on me here. I got to get this video filmed, so hopefully it does not rain on me while we're shooting this. Today we're going to talk about 4 ridiculously easy things that you can do to improve your backpacking trips without spending any money at all. These are tips that can help you guys out in summer backpacking, fall, winter, spring, year-round. These are just things that I've done over the years to just really help me improve comfort and just make myself more efficient and just enjoy my time out on trail a little bit more. The very first tip that we're going to talk about is one that I've really shied away from mentioning. It's kind of been in my head, and I've thought about talking about it, and I didn't really know how to talk about it because I know to a lot of people, you know, you can see me on screen, whatever, and I'm a pretty narrow, skinny guy. So talking about, you know, getting yourself in better shape probably just seems ridiculous coming from somebody like myself. This skinny guy is telling me to get in better shape. And I'm not sitting there saying, you know, that you need to go to the gym and start, you know, pumping iron and lifting weights and getting jacked like The Rock. Just honestly stuff as simple as just, you know, going for walks. Just anything that you can do to improve your physical fitness and, you know, just get your cardio up a little bit more for your next backpacking trip. You know, it's going to help you so much in the long run. Throw your pack on, go out for, you know, a couple kilometer walk after work. You know, if you got a dog, take your dog out for a walk, that kind of thing. Just so many of us become very, you know, stationary in our day-to-day lives. You know, a lot of us work in office jobs and that kind of stuff. You know, if you're out walking trails or even just walking down the street, you know, getting your cardio up, it's going to help you that much more when you get out on trail. Tip number 2, we're going to talk about gear, and we're going to talk about testing our gear at home. Now, typically when we talk testing backpacking gear at home, we're talking about our sleep system stuff, talking about setting up our shelter, like our tent, and, you know, testing our sleeping pad and our quilt or sleeping bag, making sure that our sleep system can get us through the night. That tends to be the typical gear that people test out at home. But a big one that I see a lot of people doing out on trail and just a lot of people struggling with is your backpack. I've got my fiance's backpack here. This is an MEC brand. Up here in Canada, MEC is like our version of REI. I think the pack is called the Brio. Don't quote me on it. I know it probably was written on here at some point. It's probably rubbed off. The pack's a couple years old. I believe this model's been since discontinued and they've just kind of moved on to a different model. And the reason I grabbed this one over any of my backpacks is this pack just has more adjustment to it. You know, you've got the ability to completely adjust your torso length. You know, it's got a very nice padded hip belt. It's got the adjustment straps on the side of the hip belt that if you tighten those, it'll pull the bottom of the pack closer to you and it's going to kind of stop swaying and just helps engage the hip belt even more. You know, it's got your typical load lifters. And one cool feature on this pack in particular that I haven't really seen on too many other packs. When we picked up Lindsay's backpack from MEC, we had them fitted up for her in the store. You know, I didn't jump in and, you know, try and take over the person's job. We just kind of let the person do their job and they got the pack adjusted for her. We got home and we decided to load up her backpack with all the gear in it and go for a walk, take our dog out to the off-leash park. We got like down the street, like not even a block away from our house. And Lindsay was saying that the backpack was insanely uncomfortable and it was really pulling into the back of her shoulders. So we took the pack off of her and we looked at it and we realized that on the back here, where her load lifters is, they were originally hooked up to this extra little connection point here. So her pack has 2 different spots for the load lifters to attach. And all I did is I just, you know, fed it out of this buckle, fed the load lifter strap into this buckle, and adjusted the torso length up 1 notch and put the backpack back on her. And she said it was an absolute world of difference. Just getting her backpack properly adjusted and properly fitted up, you know, making sure that the straps at the bottom were sucking the hip belt in enough and, you know, wasn't swaying and bouncing around on her, and getting the load lifters adjusted properly. It made a world of difference. And, you know, she's since gone on a bunch of different backpacking trips with me. So like I said, having a properly fitted pack, testing out your backpack at home, getting it set up for you is going to help you out on the trail. So let's just dive right into tip number 3. And tip number 3 has to do with how you pack everything into your backpack. Now, one thing that I've really worked on over the years, and just kind of, I don't know, I'm a creature of habit and I like having systems, and I'm pretty systematic with my stuff. And that's just putting everything into my backpack in the exact same spot every single time. What that's done for me is it allows me when I'm out on trail You know, if I'm hiking along and I just discover I've got a hot spot on my foot, or, you know, I'm starting to get a headache or something like that, I know exactly where my first aid kit is in my backpack all the time. So I'm not having to dig and hunt through and just waste time trying to find it. You know, I know exactly what pouch it's in. I know pretty much exactly where it's going to be sitting at all times, you know. So if you've got one of these packs like this one here, has got, you know, a ton of different zippered pockets and different spots you can stash stuff. Just, you know, if you're using all those pockets, just knowing what's in that pocket and just, you know, getting yourself a system where you're putting things in the same pocket every time, it's going to help you in the long run. It's going to make you a lot more efficient when you're out there on trail, and you're not going to be wasting time hunting for gear. All right, this last tip, as I've had a couple raindrops fall on me here, we're going to talk about pre-trip planning. Now, a lot of people go into backpacking trips blind. We see this up here in the Rockies all the time. You know, people just, they see a trail and they see the name of the trail and they've seen photos from someone else doing this hike, and they decide, I just need to go and do this trail. I need to go see these sites and get these same kind of pictures. And that can always be a fantastic way, you know, to learn about new areas and, you know, just discover just amazing things that you can see out there in the backcountry. But what a lot of people don't do when it comes to, you know, planning out their backpacking trip is just kind of reading into a lot of the details of the trip. And like I said, they kind of go into a blind. So when you're doing your pre-trip planning, you know, like just look into things, you know, like an elevation profile, what the distances are, what your possible water sources are going to be. If you've got camp locations, you know, what the food storage situation is going to be at those camp locations. You know, up here in the Rockies, a lot of times you'll end up at campsites that have got, you know, a designated bear hang set up with like a cable and a pulley system, or sometimes you get bear lockers. Or, you know, if you're out in public land, a lot of times, you know, you're going to have a setup to hang your own food, and you're going to have to, you know, bring some cordage or have an sack or a bear canister. Knowing all those little details and kind of having that in your head, or even, you know, written down, or, you know, a lot of people like using technology and, you know, just make a note on your phone and kind of plot those kind of things out, you know, using an app like Gaia and, you know, plotting out your route on Gaia and going on there, and, you know, you can drop little pins on any point that you think is going to be, you know, a water source. And then when you're out there on trail, you know, you can use all this information and you can kind of judge, you know, okay, I've got another 5 kilometers to go. I've got a liter of water. It's going to take me about an hour and a bit to hike that far. I can make it there on my liter of water. I know there's going to be water up ahead. And knowing those elevation profiles, you know, it's one thing to hike, you know, 20 kilometers in a day and, you know, have, say, you know, 300 meters elevation gain, as opposed to doing a 20 kilometer day and having, you know, 12 to 1300 meters of elevation gain. That can be a drastically different experience for you when you're out there on trail. And a lot of people just don't take these factors into account when they're planning out their trip. And, you know, if people took just a little bit of time and did a little bit more trip planning, their trips can be so much more enjoyable, and you can really, really avoid having these long, strenuous days that you weren't necessarily expecting because you just looked at the distance and you didn't take into account the elevation profile. And all that comes down to trip planning. And with all those tips covered, you know, if you guys are looking for more backpacking tips and tricks and you're a newer backpacker, I've compiled an entire playlist of all the hiking and backpacking tips that I put together. And I'll put that playlist right here conveniently for you. So when you're done with this video, find a video in that playlist. I'm sure you'll find something you'll enjoy there. And as always, I am Matty. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.